Hello, I am Kevin Burnett, and I will be reading pages 201 to 210 of The Funk Became Portal. So let's begin. I will also be looking over here to read, just a heads up. So let's begin. The Funk Became Portal. They have a link description here. To you, I am your GLADOS, genetic life form and disk operating system, and you are my Chell, and vice versa. And in Portal 2, we are now Wheatley, Stephen Merchant, and Aperture founder Cave Johnson, J.K. Simmons. In this new cooperative mode, players solve puzzles together as robots, Atlas and Peabody, both voiced by D. Bradley Baker. Jonathan Colton and the National produced songs for the game. We are all of this and what is not. So now we are all experiencing this test, and the cake is and isn't a lie, just as we know it to be. Just as the constructed data behind its formula tells us, it will be and guides us towards the eventual release or not of Portal 3, or some other puzzle game that you purchase at the experience store, and then you download that experience into your container until you want or need the next release for whatever reason. Okay, going on to the next. It says, now that we are also aware as artificial intelligent NPCs and humans and conscious RAM, that information can connect with each other and learn more from it to complete the game, or get bored and stop interacting with the ideas being presented and move on blind, or keep going forever until you know me, 1,200% plus, and IU 1,200% plus, or 50-50, or so complexly that you are now me as we are we. Or you can run over me with a car and take my belongings that are able to be gathered from that container. However you choose to selfishly experience your selfless gain, but if you choose to kill an NPC, it's not going to be as much of completing the whole experience, because then that container can no longer assist you. But you, as the current container, know it does and doesn't matter, and beyond that much closer as I do. You will and won't make these decisions, but personally I would hope that eventually, even if the reality like video games, that we choose not to destroy each other and attempt to complete the game or the funk together. Moving on. I'm going to go to sleep now. Thank you everyone here for your participation in this experiment. I will either connect again with you at some other point in time. For you, in that patience, it may seem like I am gone for a longer time than you are interested in, and that you are able to exist along with. So if you're no longer here, when I again reach out to you, I understand if you are now only able to access me again across the future funk, and then use that information to build, form, expand, evolve, and multiply your next container of transport, transfer experience, and communal past, present, and future understanding of my collectible data of this experience can be observed and experienced again through my dissertation and dissection of the funk by reaching out to me at hudafunkband@gmail.com. Good night. Love you. Moving on. Monday, December 9th, 2019. Susan Brooks. I read this through several times. I still think that some caps and stems are required to grasp it. But what you're referring to as the funk, I would refer to as consciousness. which we all collectively share, may be more interestingly linked than science completely currently suggests. I also think that you're ascribing traits to that, personified traits that don't need to be there. Monday, September 14th, 2020. These unnecessary examples are important because they are how I have become and are becoming aware of how to further describe my and other perceptions and experience of how the funk is revealed to us, and how to attempt to personally explain it to each other. Everything so that the present future is able to expand from it. Absolutely, it is different to each of us and seems superfluous, but is extremely necessary to everyone and everything, and it is important that we interpret our perceptions of those events of very important situations, experience, and perspectives, or not. Regardless, this information, whether true or false, necessary or not, now exists and is affecting our reality on some level. And I am presenting this information so that it can be edited, expanded upon across time. Have you read The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle? He touches on some of these ideas too, just different words. If our species manages to survive our environmental crisis, I think this era of history might be known as the Second Great Awakening. But I also fail at putting those thoughts into words, to find ways of painting the picture of how all life is connected, to get the meaning out of my head, across the space between us, and into our head. Words do not necessarily always convey the meaning they are desired to express, and thus we are limited by them in discussion. Thus, I will end up personifying more than I intend in an effort to convey those thoughts. Moving on. Consciousness is just sitting there behind our eyes, observing our existence. You can only really pay close attention to one thing at a time, and our body is throwing all kinds of info at it. My back hurts. I have an itch on my forehead. The temperature with this blanket is comfortable. My blanket feels soft. My legs feel soft. I can hear my breath rushing through my nose. Sometimes it notices thoughts drifting across my mind, the nature of which is about the present physical sensation. Sometimes the contents of those thoughts are about the future, sometimes the past, and those thoughts carry with the emotional weight that impacts the body. Especially when you're caught up in the story and the content of your thoughts, the collective consciousness wants to know that if it's to be for one person's experience isn't enough. It's got to know life from various perspectives, all perspectives, to understand the experience. Each of us is like another little program on a massive computer trying to solve the question of what it means to be alive. The answer will not be able to be put into words as it's too limiting. I hope some of this makes sense. It probably doesn't. Sean Penelber. Susan, what you are saying and attempting to process and describe tells me that you're indeed further understanding the theory I am proposing of the funk. Everything you said and are feeling further confirms my study as well as it does not, as it's still not a complete answer or how to describe that answer or question to yourself, to others and everyone and everything. You are now observing the funk and are studying with me after being proposed an idea that is still under great research and now expanding across myself to you and everyone and everything else now processing what I am proposing. The calculation is now in further advancement and will continue to expand until it reaches back into itself and plants the idea of further advancement of knowledge of itself and others into the next container or vessel of experience. Thank you for attempting to make sense of what you and I are saying. That is what it's all about. And you understand that it's a lot to say, think, or type, but now that we are connected to each other and to computers, that you can easily calculate and process that information. We are indeed on the next level of conscious advancement and moving further. We can now more easily point out these patterns of existence, and over time, when I say the funk, you will instantly know or closer understand that I mean rather than need to have or typed all of this information. It will be as easy as smelling cookies and knowing that cookies are being baked. Does that make sense? If my theory is true, then you now further understand what I mean, while I also still not as clear as to how we will or may be able to in the future. We are absolutely doing that and are expanding and evolving and gathering and processing the pinpoints and connections of expansions to us. We are proposing the dissertation and everything leading up to this, and that point and now after is forever influenced as you are too. The funk is expanding, while already having been doing so, as we know it is on, like a light switch, until it is off, or between and beyond. But because we are able to have the conversation, we are undoubtedly existing within beyond. Ben Rigney. Hey Sean, it's possible you might be leading into a manic episode. I know because I had one myself and had similar insights about the meaning of life that are hard for other people to understand. Be sure to get sleep. If you can't get sleep, have a support plan if things start to get surreal. Sean, I know what you mean. This thought has also crossed my mind, and I'm aware that by proposing this theory of such a large amount of abstract data, that others would also believe it to appear to be so. You are reaching out to me to show me you care, and that means a lot to me. And I would like to assure you that even though it may seem or feel you as a form of mania or oddness, that these ideas should still be proposed to others. Considering how the world once thought Socrates to be crazy and sentenced him to drink hemlock, by me proposing this theory, I am being judged or sentenced, and that is okay to me with all this study of life that is knowingly and common pattern of reacting to interpreting the abstract ideas of our realities. Currently, I feel quite healthy and level-headed. I know it may seem to some that the passion I am currently expressing to potentially be manic, and it is in a way manic that is greatly excites me, that the information I've been applying my study towards has continued to point as true from the moments I shared them with the internet and the world, and that thought it can appear manic or be hard to understand. I am becoming more and more able to communicate this information to others. Every action has a reaction, and I'm still willing and wanting to present this information. And these ideas I've collected, even if it means I'll be called crazy or manic or any description, whether I am or not. You connected with my idea and reached back to me, thus confirming many past philosophical theories, and now, using technology and the internet, you're connecting to me from whatever location in space and time you once were and also now are. We are providing for each other through connection. Much love for reaching out and checking on me. Our existence is significant and your advice is comforting. It is indeed very real and very surreal, but I have a mentally strong and healthy control at the moment, even though it could be interpreted as not. And when I began to write my dissertation, all these patterns within the funk I had been expressing told me all this would happen. And it has been our entire lives, and it is indeed crazy, but also super comforting. And I am now increasingly sharing that collection of data I have been researching of life and other realities with those who are interested or not. Some will connect to it, some won't, but all the events leading up to the moment have in a way told, translated, broadcasted to me. that I would eventually do it, and I am doing it now. And we are now observing the results of that event. We are studying and observing how life reveals itself to each of us, and everything. Let me start that over. Observing how life reveals itself to each of us and everything, how to do or do not, and the effect it has on each other and everything. Does that make sense? Ben Rigney. Trust me, I don't think you're crazy. If you feel like your brain is firing at 100% lately, you're doing the right thing by writing your thoughts down. I recommend that you target audience primarily be your future self, who might forget a lot of the context you're currently feeling. Write as though you're talking to a version of yourself that doesn't understand what you're saying. Try to get less ambiguous and more specific. Write some parables to demonstrate your points. If you want to follow the groove of the old Greeks, I like Plato's allegory of the cave. You're out of the cave and you're seeing things other people can't. As you return and try to explain what you've seen to people, they won't understand for not fault of their own, for better or worse. You won't be in the funk forever, and your memory can't possibly hold on to all that reference and patterns you're seeing. Can't possibly hold on to all the reference and patterns you're seeing right now. Take a second to slow down and document with your future self, who's no longer in the funk, as the target audience. Funk is not simply an episode for a target audience. It is beyond quantumly impossible to not be a part of the funk, as it is everything including, nothing beyond an infinite hierarchy. He is correct, however, that the document has a target audience, whoever that may be. While I also understand Ben was alluding to his assumption to whichever state he believed me to be in, whatever state you're in is still part of funk. So that was kind of just like an insert of like his thought of like what the conversation was. I don't really know how to break that up in the thing, but next time I see that, I'll just say the same thing. So, moving on. This doesn't mean you can't talk to other people, but especially focus your efforts on documenting for yourself. May 24th, 2024. I still find it extremely interesting how Ben and Susan were in their own ways describing and attributing to what I was and am describing, while at the same time still seemingly confused about my presentation. This is a great example to you, reader, on how funk puts people, things into our lives to give us more examples, scenarios, perspectives on how to understand and translate its happenings. You are able to understand to a much better degree the information I am presenting because you are viewing it in a much more evolved presentation and are also able to see others explained, interpreted as well from other perspectives. Along the lines of what Susan mentioned, this is my personal perspective of a collection of perspectives, and along the lines of what Ben suggested, here I am, the future self, expanding from our yaws as a result of presenting this document to the target audience. One last rule I strongly suggest is to have a bedtime where you put your phone and computer away in another room. Whatever amazing thoughts you have, they can wait. Don't touch the phone unless it's to call someone for support. If you can't sleep, spend the night at a family's place and go enjoy your brain. This is back to the conversation. Those were, like I said, was like his thoughts on the conversation they were having for the present time and then for the future, basically. Sean, you get it. Ben, oh boy, do I. Sean, and all of that is exactly what you and I are attempting to do. Now I'm presenting the proofs to others through my dissertation, and it becoming easier and easier while still always level of difficult to communicate with myself others in the future, and if I am unable to, I will attempt to translate it through someone else or even a computer program or whatever it is able to next. Ben, feel free to send it to me, but do it in the email so it's all in one place and not scattered. He left his email, benjaminrigney@gmail.com. Sean, this is how it's currently best presentable. Will do, and please keep in mind that it's currently subjectively and objectively long. This data and thought adds up exponentially until able to be described or summarized with lesser words or thoughts, but there are books longer than it, and I know we are humans are capable of reading books that are much longer than it is now. So good luck and enjoy sending now. December 10th, 2019. Ben, when did you begin the Word document? Sean, a few days ago. I can give you closer information later when I get back home. Ben, while your brain is on a roll, be careful of driving. You've been doing a lot of writing and thinking at a rapid pace, and fatigue might kick in at a bad time. Also, make sure you don't end up by yourself for too long at a time this coming week. If you can spend the week at a family member's house while you focus on writing and thinking, I strongly recommend it. Sean, thanks again, Ben. You're helping and have helped me and everyone after this point in time to help understand how important it is to rest and not to drive or process too much information while driving. By coincidence, at this moment, I was driving on my way home from improv, and I was thinking about my dissertation as well as how I'm going to respond to you about this. And I was pulled over for going 45 and 35 because I was so focused in thought and distracted. Rest and process and don't drive distracted. I was simply distracted by thinking, as we all can be at some point. I was thinking too much, and now I'm a result of that, and seeing that and experiencing the consequence of. Hopefully I don't get a ticket, but probably will. We shall see. I got a warning, and she was so nice and kind, and we chatted for a sec about what happened, and she understood. But you have further increased my and future hour awareness that rest is important to process and to dream. Eating is important because it's important to digest information, even though some of that information has the capacity to harm us or help us. Reality has to experience that harm in order to learn from it. It is important to hear as that it's further how you listen and can potentially feel information. It is important to touch because that is how you reach, feel, and experience information. And it's important to see because that is how you can investigate and observe it. Instinct has become a live prediction of all by the influence of the past presented to itself and now the future. What do you think? Also, I do a lot of improv and very socially active, as you probably know me to be. This is another insert, March 19th, 2023. Another example of someone suggesting I have a manic episode, though he was under the false assumption that I may have been, still feel Ben gave good advice and was helpful. I was absolutely digesting a lot of information, and I can see how my presentation possibly appeared to others as manic, but I am comfortable and confident in saying I was not in a manic episode or have experienced one. I just care about collecting, reassessing, and passing on this information as life. Project has, as any other philosopher would care about their life's work. May 24th, 2024. I'd also like to point out how Ben also discussed the situation to be like Plato's allegory of the cave, and that I was perhaps seeing outside of the cave, as I mentioned before. And as Plato mentioned, when you are this person, after you return to the cave, the people are going to think something is wrong with you. How do you explain the sun to someone who's never seen it before and thinks that something is wrong with you? Kindle. I hope you're okay, Sean. All these posts seem very manic. I'm just gonna put a quick thing in there. It's funny how, like, he's done said this. When you start putting your the whole thing is funk, but when you start representing your soul out to others and presenting it to others, and then how they like judge you and things like that. It's just funny how you know, or with this information, how all of them are just presumed to be manic as opposed to like anything else outside of like maybe a more positive outlook. Just because you're having thoughts and like deeper thoughts than like, oh, should I eat McDonald's? But anyways, continue. So we'll just start back over. Kindle. I hope you're okay, Sean. All these posts seem very manic. Sean Pilleber. As the past and our study of culture predicted, it would be viewed as. But I just had a excuse me, I burped. But I just had a linked discussion with three others. One of them to be a lovely older gentleman with Asperger's, to so far to their perspective confirm to understand that I am saying to their capabilities of. I understand it seems manic as it is a lot of information to interpret and to take in, and learn how to express and or share more easily. It can also seem manic by how exciting I seemingly am about it, because I never known something to be sure in my life. Though still not knowingly of, and the three other people you will soon be able to hear in the recording of this conversation is further proof of my currently 7-year, but really 29 and more study. And they felt and understand it as well, which is exciting and promising. You see where? So he brought up the manic thing again, and that's what I'm saying. He's like, instead of manic, why couldn't they just be like, he's passionate? So like when they went to see, because all judging is not bad, but when they like judged them negative. They could have judged them positively and said like this is passion, because I kind of think this is passion because I'm an artist, so like I kind of understand where you're coming from, especially when you've devoted as much time as you have. It may seem to the outside that it's one thing, but for sure, like, hey, it ain't that, bro. It's this, and But let's continue. So I assure you that everything is indeed fine, and I am well, and have really never felt better. You know how you feel when everything is coming up roses or Millhouse. It feels pretty giddy. When I upload the recording, if you choose to listen to it, you will understand your perception of almost exactly what I'm explaining and describing in a 20-minute period. You will potentially then feel that feeling too, unless you're adamantly unwilling to do so or personally opposed to it, to the point you choose to not understand it, or even simply not to the point of ability of understanding it. I predict it, and if I am correct or not, if you ever listen to it or investigate further understanding, you will eventually relay back to me, or not, that you understand or not, and that you feel it or feel it to be or not. And any and all of those will and will not happen. But I predict in your own way you will eventually further feel the funk and the understanding of it, and that you are doing so now. I see that you care deeply enough about me to reach out and check in on my well-being, and that means a lot to me. And that I love you for doing it, as it is further proves my study, and you are now advancing that information. You're already feeling your reaction to the funk, and it seemingly currently has your interest, even if you became uninterested. Tuesday, December 10th, 2019. I am now, by request, sending this dissertation to Daniel Holiday. Hello, past, present, and future Daniel. Welcome again to the Funk, and you too, future reader. Tuesday, December 10th, 2019. Sean, if anyone or anything has ever told you that you are special on that one day, you would be significant. You would be a significant success as yourself. I can now, with research of time and data collection, tell you that it is an arguably truth. You are special and significant. And if nothing ever told you that in the past, then I just did, and I am also able to give you further proof if you are denying what I am saying to be true. Try me. Ask me how you are special and significant, or tell me if you believe yourself to be or not so. And if you want to know how I now know all this and would like to look at the research of the data presented behind it, it is in my dissertation of the funk, and also within my knowledge how to further prove it to be so to you and to others. Love you. Vandy Enzor. Reflection. If you dislike a photograph of yourself, doesn't mean that you dislike a part of yourself. Sean. Great question. I think it does and it doesn't. It does because you indeed had that feeling of dislike, but it also doesn't because you will over time learn to love yourself more and more until that previous dislike becomes memory and you can like and enjoy unless you don't. The thought of a photograph leads me to the thought of a videograph and how you can now graph pictures, portraits, and frames of time through video, and not only as previously able, only through a single frame of photo reference. Video is a collection of photos over time placed frame after frame until it is 29 minutes later, or a Googleplex of years. Then there's a link that'll be in the description. Tuesday, December 10th, Alicia Whitmire. This whole thing has had my interest, Sean, because it's beginning to make a lot of sense, isn't it? For others to understand, and for how my understanding, would you mind explaining where your interest is coming from and what makes you interested in what I'm saying? Alicia, it is an interesting premise. What makes you say, I'm special? How does funk play into it? Sean, one, you're special because I said above, I have just said it to be, and now here a second time. Two, you're special because you exist. I know you exist. Your parents know you exist. Everyone reading this now knows you exist, and that is special. Three, you are special because you are a part of me and us. You are an influence in my gathering information and on how the funk works, and your interest proves my theory to be continuously an effort in expanding as it now is through your reader. 4, you create and are creative, and that is special. 5, that we know that you are special and influence upon the funk will continue to grow and expand in an exponential amount until it loops back within itself and starts again. You will always in time be you, and given enough time, you will become you again in every way and form. Isn't that special? 6, you are special. Do you need further proof? Or does that make sense and now prove to be more special than you previously thought yourself to be? Alicia Whitmire, makes sense. I'll keep reading your posts. Okay, so that's going to be the end of my pages to read. Just a recap of what I read. So basically started off as like understanding that we are computers basically, and so I've always had this theory. I don't really like dabble into like other people's perspectives, such as like philosophical ones all the time, but I've always had this theory like our mind, our brain is a computer, and we have a computer to be able to store what is here onto there. And sometimes you need more gigs, terabytes, and like that, if you're processing a lot of information. So that's just the storage idea I had about the brain. And I'm sure that's already a thing because computers and stuff already exist. So someone had that thought already. So that's part of the funk where I'm just now getting in line to what the funk has already got into. So I'm on that thought wave or thought process. I just haven't got to the further one because someone has already thought of that. But I soon could get to that kind of thing. I just got to meet maybe the right person or experience the right thing. And I think that's kind of what he's like talking about. And then we like go on a little further more about the manic thing. And I kind of touched up it a little bit, but I just kind of, I'm not one to dabble with negative words a lot. I'm not also, oblivious to negativity, but I think, judging someone as manic can be a little stretch, especially if you're not like, professional at it. But like I would probably use more words like passion, because like I said, I'm an artist. So when I'm creating and manifesting my soul out onto mediums, it can be very exhausting mentally. I created, let me tell you, I created for like 7 years straight, just like nonstop, 325 days, just boom, 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 boom. And I've now in this period of time where I am just exhausted, fatigued mentally. And then the thought of like creating art almost to the point just like sickens me. And I'm just like, it's kind of, I think I'm interpreting that as like, it didn't go as far as I thought it would, and so it feels like a weight or a burden on me, but like it's my passion inside the funk. And I think trying to separate myself from it is causing such a resistance where like I can't really move forward because I'm trying to neglect it so bad. And it's like I need to nurture it for me to get back on the path to move forward. And I'm just now realizing that too. And this actually helps bring that into more of a perspective too. So that's kind of neat. But I also been dealing with a lot of other variables that kind of also, I mean, we say variables, but we could say excuses as well. But I'm going to say variables because they have been really, um, what's something when it's like on road and then you get bumped off the road? Rearing, basically. And I mean, I'll eventually get back to it. It's just taking some time. But we can go back to Sean and his theories or his philosophical theories about what it's like. I also believe I was talking about being negative, right? But I'm more on the perspective of where he's telling this person that she's special, which she's special, but she's not special, and that's kind of a hard pill to swallow because when you've grown up and you've been told over and over again that you're special, people celebrate your birthdays and all that. When you have that perspective, having your birthday celebrated and people calling in, people giving you gifts, all that kind of stuff. And if you don't have that, you will believe that it's not as special as you may think. And even when you're getting those gifts, you can wake up one day and realize like I'm not as special as I thought I was because we always overcompensate what special means, And when you sit back, and because I'm also an observer of myself, so when you sit back and you observe the funk or the world or life, you just start to realize how special how insignificantly special you actually are. And I don't mean to say that as like a negative connotation towards life. It's just like, if I go outside right now, there's like 20 people outside walking around doing something. And like, I don't have to say anything to them. And they don't have to say anything to me. And I just seen them for a second, you know? And so like a second in time is just insignificant, although it might be special, you know, because a bird could have swooped down and pecked him in the eye or something like, whoa, but it wasn't. And not to say that the thing they weren't doing wasn't special, you know, they were walking their dog. So in that time in their life, their timeline, it could have been special. But as I say that, I just go to say that I believe you're insignificantly special to the greater scheme of things. For your ego to get through the day to day, then yeah, sure. If you want to be called special, claim to be, then you know you may do so. And I understand that can help some people gravitate forward. But outside of that, I think it was pretty interesting. I mean, I've had some thoughts like this before too, man. So I would just say keep it going. I feel like you have something there. When I first opened this, I thought, what the hell am I supposed to read? Because you were like talking about Portal and stuff like that. And I was like, okay, so this is probably going to be, you know, I don't know, you know. So I was just like, what did I get myself into? But as I further read it, I'm just like, okay, so, you know, you've been having thoughts, you've been putting them down on paper, and you just want to hear what other people have to say about it because you strongly believe in this and strongly believe in what I believe too. So it's kind of nice. And I've also, as an artist, because I like the idea where you were talking about how this PDF or this dissertation is like the connection to other people. And the crazy thing about this connection is like when someone reads it, it'll branch off to someone else because then they will go talk to it. So it's almost like a never-ending loop, as you say. So I like that idea. But as an artist, I'm kind of in the same boat. Or, you know, the idea of like networking. So I like the idea of networking. And I feel like that's just what this is. It's networking. So you created this experience. And so for me, when I create experiences, it's more like a modeling gig or something. So I create the materials, bring them there. I get a bunch of people together from all parts of, you know, the city or something. Some people I've never even met before, which I prefer it that way because it's like, in order to grow, you kind of need to meet different people because then those people, so then their branches touch other people and things like that. So if I'm always, if I'm, if I'm always, if I'm here and this is my people and I'm always, those are my 4 branches. And so then these people have branches. And then these people have branches. You see how that works? So my branch was only 4, but these people have 3 branches. So then their branches are going to meet people, and then their branches are going to meet people. And so it just kind of continues and continues and continues and continues and continues. And it doesn't necessarily have to be 3. This is just an example because, you know, and then sometimes branches can sever. But with everything, right? So and that's the funny thing when I say branches can sever because connections in general never really go away. Once you, I'm going to get a little further. So once you like, you know, have certain experiences with people, especially of the opposite sex, such as intercourse and things like that. This is why some people don't understand the idea of intercourse, because you're actually like soul bonding and linking to this person, that you are low-key attached to them for a lifetime. And some people act on it, some people don't. Some people are, the way they are, and some people are the way they're not. But that is the intention of intercourse. So that's just kind of like a segue to it on how you have certain types of connections, and, uh, and how some connections are lasting. But I do believe, it could just, with the whole theory of this creation was given and now it's expanding, and it expands only by others. So I like that idea a lot. But yeah, so I mean, I think that's just my wrap up of the whole idea of the funk. Um, Appreciate the read, appreciate the opportunity, and as you are now, present and future and past, Mr. Sean, um, stay true to you, brother, and keep it going. Kevin Burnett out.